Sure, to invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Shyam Kante. He has 40 years experience from the pharma industry in different multinational companies, and he has been awarded as the Best Pharmacist Award in 2018 by IDMA, IPA, and EDQM. So please put your hand together. Warmly welcome keynote speaker, Mr. Shyam.
Good morning. Okay, my time starts now. Good morning once again. Just a couple of days back, I got a phone call, and he said, I'm little hard of hearing. So he said, my name is Ramdev. So I was worried. I said that Ramdev Baba, what he has got to do with me? We have a guy who teaches yoga and all these things. So he said, no, I am Ramdev Agrawal. And he mentioned to me about the purpose. Then he and his colleague came, and then we discussed about what I need to speak. Then he said, you need to be keynote speaker on the subject. I said, look, keynote speaker is a easy and difficult job. Easy for the reason that he has not to speak on anything. And difficult is if the crowd is quite heterogeneous, then probably he has to guess everybody's intelligence, because the stuff you speak about could be a gold mine for somebody or could be an absolute muck for somebody. So one has to go home also after the presentation. So that's a kind of thing which I felt. Then I said, okay, let me make up my mind. And then I said that, okay, what should I speak about? Then I little thought about the newer trends, and then I made my choice to speak on something, the subject which you see on your screen. The title appears to be a little bit funny. And then I said, okay, what the title should be? I picked up it from an idiom from Oxford Dictionary, and we said something like this thing is the knight in the shining armor. Okay, what does it mean? What way it is connected? I will try to explain. Can somebody be a timekeeper so that you can switch off the mic after my time is up? Okay. Normally it so happens. But normally it so happens that the speaker, then people at in the back, they try to show off. It's okay, enough. Some of people, there is enough light here, so I can see if anybody is sleeping. So then I said, okay, let me talk about something is happening on, and what it's all about. Now, let me first, my hands up and say that these are my views. Absolutely nothing to do in case it contravenes any regulation. In that case, the regulation is the topmost, okay? And I would say that no animals were harmed in this presentation, which is normally shown in Indian movies, okay? For all my, the friends here coming from Helsinki, very beautiful city, which I had been there once. And so we have got to tell people that, okay, there's nothing. So these are my views based on my whatever little I understood in the industry, good, bad, ugly, I really don't know. But I said, let me put together and let me go about it. It's my tribal habits. I am a manufacturing guy. I can't be glued to a podium like normal the marketing guys are. So we are always fond of moving. So we felt that I need to touch upon some subjects on a clean room, and clean room means what all the small little things which comes in the room. Then I coined the word inhabitants. Because in India probably a lot of turmoil is going on, is that who are the inhabitants, who are not there, and all these kind of things. So there's nothing to do here. We are talking about the inhabitants of the clean room, which could be particles, which could be dead, living, God knows what all, machine generated, non-generated, already there, migrated, all kinds of things. So we're just trying to touch upon this kind of subject, and maybe in the afternoon, the subject matter experts will be dealing it in more details of this thing. So we just say that even small act of ours, what it costs, you see that even a little bit of the handshake, it talks about millions of bacteria when we say hi, or even the fist bump, the kind of thing. And that the best way for India is namaste, okay? So we don't touch anybody, and virtually there is no transfer of particles or bacteria which this like. Of course, I am not very much sure about the empirical content of this slide because it's picked up from WhatsApp messages. So I really don't know about the technical correctness of this slide, but yes, in this thing, which is very essential, that's a zero bacterial transfer. In this, just imagine close to 124 million bacteria, the particles, and this is a zero kind of thing. These are all the typical contents of the things. And I would request everybody not to take down anything. This presentation will be left with Manas and the team. Because if you take down something, it makes me nervous. I get a feeling they're going to ask me some difficult question at the end of the presentation. And if you ask difficult question, lunch is delayed. So these are the outcome of it. So please don't ask us. For difficult question, speakers are there to explain, and all these experts who have come from other places. So when we are talking about the clean room, look at that. The clean room, when we talk about the HEPA filters, they were discovered in the year even none of us were born in this room. Just imagine it was in the Project Manhattan, which talks about 1940. So this means that about 80 years back, the HEPA filters were discussed. And what was done over there? No pharmaceuticals. What was done was a very dreadful thing, which you can see the picture. I don't want to even utter those words, which is nothing but the little boy and the fat man, the really villains of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And believe me, this deadly equipment were assembled in then clean room. Okay, what was being done about. So just imagine the power of it.
Your hour is not up yet, don't worry.
Okay. It's not from my time. Okay, thank you. So when we just a little bit of history, it's always better that we go back and see from where we come from. Doesn't make any sense. History is nothing to do, but still we need to understand where do you go from. And then again, this clean room, it didn't come from the pharma industry. It came from some industry which has put a man on the moon. Okay, and that is the you will see the biggest achievement, mankind, the lunar landing, silicon chip, and then safe drug. All this thing was a sort of part of the thing. Maybe the don't go on the color of my hair. I'm a very old person. Okay, so it distracts me. Okay, you feel that I'm very young? No, I'm not. So just imagine that the pharmaceutical industry use of the clean room came little later, and it is a gift of this science, which is something connected with the space technology. And then we said that basically it's a scientific research, and the clean room concepted a way to minimize the particles. But there was a difference between the clean room used by those people and the clean room done by us. It was just a typical picture of the clean room thing, how probably it's from the competitor firm of Lindstrom. That is how it has been done. The clean room, something on the top, and people are sitting over there. Just clean air is thrown, but no concept of direction of the air and everything was being done. So this is how the early days clean room were done. And this is just only this is just a sort of very preliminary thing for all the people sitting over here. I mean, I'm ashamed to show you this slide, but just to put you in the picture that there is something to concern with the ISO classification, and we normally deal, the pharmaceutical industry deals with these two. Sorry, this is not working, that's why I have to go. So these two types of classification, 4 and 5, we talk about, and that's the particle size and the numbers which we deal with. So development of the modern healthcare industry, pharmaceutical, if you just see, the underlying, whatever is underlying over here, is nothing but the additional emphasis on monitoring air control and the microbial contamination. Now this is what is the difference between the clean room practiced by the chips, electronics, so that industry, and between us. And such facilities are incorporated with aseptic technique. Again, design and construction, I think I saw the list and somebody is going to talk on this thing much in detail about the construction material of the clean room and all. So I will not even just to mention. And then it primarily controls. So what does the clean room do? It primarily controls, and we'll just see by the help of some pictures how does it control. Look at that. This picture is again one more thing. All the pictures, this is not my pure research work. Only I had done the research of searching the 200 odd research articles. So that's my only effort over here. This research has not been done. No, nothing is a copyright material. It's already on the public domain. Okay, so this is nothing to worry about on that score. So look at that. Earlier, what was happening is just the filter, just drawing the air, and look at the eddies which it used to create in the clean. Even then, it was a clean room. And today, what we are talking about, it is the laminar or the unidirectional thing, and see that the air which is coming virtually in the same direction, and it is just only. So here, the flow of air is controlled. Let us see what is our behavioral pattern. I was just talking to her before coming over here that on the behavioral pattern. So she felt that what way HR is connected with the clean room, and I was trying to connect that. So that what a lot of our things like behavior, how do you behave in the clean room and all, and that's what the first behavior we take that. Even the obstacle, if you take this as a product, you don't have a point and so if the product, if it is kept in just on one corner and the air is coming, just imagine it creates eddies, not fit into the principle of clean room now. If you just take into the middle and just put a little bit of hopper and just do it. Can you move up and down the slide? Look at it. Nobody won't come on this electronic screen. Done. And then, if you just move the product and just put a hopper, you'll see that we are reducing the eddy. And third more thing, if you just take it and just make some arrangement by which the air current is slightly modified and the clean room is still better to the unidirectional flow. Same thing it happens, it's called the obstacle, which is called by the movement flow disturbance. Look at that, even the human person who is working over there, if you just change, instead of this equipment, if you just put something modified, the man working over here, and we are just seeing that the improvement in the clean room is taking place. One more picture, just here you see the behavior of the person. Instead of he's doing bending down, now he's standing straight and doing something. So look at that, by simple little thinking, by movement of the people, by movement of the equipment, by movement of the operations, we are changing the clean room. Even heat source, let your product generating or some equipment generating heat over there, even that which is creating a lot of eddies, we just do it again by way of putting a hopper and by making a sort of a, even at this level, when we are putting a draft of the air, we are still maintaining the clean room. So look at that, these movements itself can do the interior. So what is the basics of the clean room? Is nothing but the aerodynamic measure, the physical barriers. I won't read from the slide, it's for, you can find it out, it's a fairly basics kind of thing. So we say that product protection, because why do we require clean room? Because whenever we talk about containment in the pharmaceutical industry, and it's a basic question, why do we require containment? So containment, again, very, very basic, very basic thing. Containment is required from product to product, product to operator, and product to environment. These are the basic things, and we will try to do it into the clean room. So look at that, these two pictures we'll talk about. Even in the horizontal flow or the vertical flow, we are trying to create a protection, the personal and environment. The colors are here coming, this screen is not proper, otherwise in the screen you can get it in better way. So this is how and then the product. This is something like the flow direction of in a graphic plane for a CRAB, which is a controlled or restricted access direction. And the ultimate is nothing but a sort of an isolator, where we talk about the passive one, where there is no airflow, but still barrier, where we see the operator virtually isolated, and the product here, same thing, but this thing has a inherent airflow system, which talks about the isolator. So then we talk about the clean room control, the material there. So what is that we require? Basically, it doesn't generate particles. It should not generate particles in the clean room. And should it, then it should. Oh, thank God, fire is I have to return this food after the job is over. So, then the personnel entering working clean room are the highest source of particulate. We'll see a little picture as to how much particles a person generates, and the cleanest of the cleanest. So when we see this definition, let me talk about this picture. This again from the research article which I very recently read, and look at that, just by simple work from sitting to walking. See the number of particles we generate, the millions of particles, and just by doing nothing. We have not brought in any product into the clean room. We have not done any unit process or unit operation in the clean room. Just from here to here, sitting, walking at high speed and walking at a higher speed. Suppose in the clean room I start running, something like that. I generate kind of 10 million particles per minute. This is just an additional gift which I give it to my clean room. So we did that in the clean room. A non-filter air greatly varies from location to location. Enormous quantity of the particulate matter, and most of these particles are invisible, okay, even to the microscope. So what happens to these particles if they are there? What so not? They are there. When you look at that, it creates again. What are the size of the particle? We are not entered the process. We are just talking about a man entering the thing. And what are these things? Look at that. Hair, pollen, dust. Then the visible bacteria, these are all the kind of things. And look at their dimension, and look at the speed at which they settle in the air. And this is all happening without your eyes watching it. Okay, so what are the limitations then? Achieving, so then into that clean room is always a very clean, or is it possible on the earth as of these conditions right now to make a clean room which will be absolutely free of particle, or something, the highest level of the clean room, it's not my thinking. Even the USP 36, it talks about the same thing. And if you see that whatever is written over here, it has been expanded in the USP 36 and the general instruction. If you see that 116, it talks about creation of the zero contamination in all the location during the assembling process is technically not possible, and it is just unrealistic. Look at that. Even the pharmacopoeial guidelines or even the statutory books also say the same thing. I still recollect my days when I was graduated in 1975. It doesn't look from my face, but it's a fact. It was written in the book called Leishman's Industrial Pharmacy, and that definition of that book I used to virtually carry with me. And the book also says the definition of aseptic processing doesn't mean that the bacteria or these things are not there. They do not appear in the product. So what all we have got to do is make efforts to see that they are removed. And look at that, even the United States Pharmacopoeia, which as recent as yesterday also talks the same thing. Nothing has changed except the technique part of it. Then I said the topic for today is, after the history, then let us see why this knight was coming over here. Look at that, this knight, when somebody fights in the war, how the knight has to be, the knight can go in like they're suited or something like that? No, it can't. It can't. And look at this, the typical definition which is given in the Oxford Dictionary of a word knight. But we say that this man has to have armor. A knight cannot go into the battlefield with the armor. And do we need this kind of knight? Yes, we also require a knight with the armor. But our chap is, look at that. These are all the operations, you like it or not. Sweeping, cleaning, inspection. These are all the things will be done in the clean room. And what are our armors? If you really want to make our man dust free in this thing, look at that, these are all the armor, not done by me, it is already there in the industry. So look at that, the man is totally protected. We don't want to see, let the man go inside and let him at his mercy generate the particles. So look at that, virtually from top to bottom, like this night, these gadgets are there with the shining armors, and that's why I feel that knight in the shining armors, and that's what we are aiming at. Okay. Now, how do you control this? I'm not going to talk on this kind of thing, but a well-designed grounding rooms, that is a strict grounding procedure must be followed. And these days, those who are from the pharmaceutical industry, are there many over here? Okay, fine. What is the best way is the best grounding, there's an entry procedure. And most companies I have seen, I mean, being in the consultancy profession these days, I keep visiting a lot. Everybody has put the pictures and the caricatures, and that's the best way. Having faced 43 years FDA inspection, I find that the best way is to put it on the tablet and a live demo of how to change, because that is a continuous way of training your people. Because when you put something on that or somebody training, probably it depends on his energy level, and sometimes he said that boys or the operators trained to do. But if it is a continuous, like in airports you see, how you take out your computer, how you keep your bag, and or you take out your jacket. In some places in Gulf, they want you to remove your shoes, everything, so that they change. So like that, if it is done through a sort of a continuous training process, this is one way we can put the controls over the contaminant. Now this is the, depending upon the clean room classification and application, the grounding, the way you look at that, when we put, if you just go like that, what happens? If you don't have that armor and all this kind of thing, if somebody says, why uniform, my clean, if I laundry wash, this thing is enough for me. No, that enough is not enough. Look at that. If you just say street clothes, frock and bouffant and the head cover, even simple little that, there is a neat drop of 2%. Just imagine, it's just nothing great. If you divide this by this, you get the answer 1.79, and this is close to 2%. So just by sheer changing the thing, you can drop down the content of the particles in your clean room to 2%. And this percentage is not in few, 1, 2, 3, it is millions. So just imagine when we are talking about millions and billions and trillions of bacteria, 2%, bringing from whatever it is to 2% is a big thing. And a simple little grounding can help you. I'm not talking about the kind of grounding you get at best. I'm just talking about simple grounding can help you bringing the thing to 2%. We talk about the ISO classification 4 or 5 and where we require, what kind of grounding we require, full, overall, full-fledged good covers and everything. And these are the things which are required for the higher grades of ISO kind of thing. We talk about 4 or 5. Electronics and the space industry talks of 1, 2 and God knows what are the kind of thing. So where we require these controls to bring down the clean room. And I recollect my days when I started my career in Hex in 1976 or 7. We used to use a typical cotton kind of suit in the sterile area, and that cotton suit was, even if you just do it like that, you can see the particles coming out of it with a visible eye, not even with any of equipment and all kind of thing. We used to always feel that, wow, what a clean kind of thing, with a less dusty and all this thing. And so many times, as a cost-saving measure, please, those guests coming from, this is a material you cannot even imagine, but that's the way it was happening over there. We always used to say that it's a very clean, you don't sweat, because in India, most of the thing become dirty when it's sweat. So when you are in an air-conditioned area, 23 point plus minus 0.5 degrees centigrade, there is no way you can sweat. There is no average dust. So those uniforms used to be very clean. So if you're not on a firm assurance that you will not laugh, we used to use that uniform for 2 days. Okay? And none of the batches failed. Okay? That much I can tell you. Product aseptically processed. And that's all. That's why today we are telling that, look at the last line, recommended per entry, you have got to throw the thing. And I ran operations in UK 5 years, my plant in Borden, UK, and we were throwing even the disposable suit every entry. So on an average, if I take 3 entries per day per operator, we were discarding 3, and it's very expensive, about 21 pounds it was costing. So just close to about 60-65 pounds per operator per day was the cost of only maintaining the clean room. Just imagine how difficult is there to stay clean, and then in spite of that, we never knew how clean was that clean. Okay, that is again the regulatory agencies are up in arm against you. So what is the heuristic perspective? That's the topic of my talk. I said that then finally in yesterday, today and tomorrow. If you see the thing which is written in the black, the first one, the color is not getting caught. It is something which is horribly contaminated. That was yesterday. Then did we stay like that? No. 1975 and now, a lot of bridge under the water under the bridge, and we said that we have done a lot of things, and that it, but still, is it that we have reached where we wanted to? No, the answer is big no. And there also we said that the future is no man's land. I saw the very recent article, which I got a copy of it, somebody wants, I can share it, that people talk about no man's land. It's a robotics. Finally, they say that we don't want to see people in the aseptic area at all. And where? So that's the way we are going. I don't know whether we'll have to see, whether Lindstrom will have to design a dress for the robo also. I hope your lab must be working on that. But you need to take cognizance of that. Otherwise, you see what happens to Kodak. Then they never took cognizance of the digital, and today Kodak is out of operation. Anyway, so that's the way you need to talk about the future. And then, so whenever you talk of the parenteral products, if it is terminally sterilized, okay, to one extent we can say that then the risk is less. When it is aseptically processed, you cannot do away with the particles, and the aseptic manufacturing of the sterile product require very high degree of controls. We are going to a particular aim, and the biggest risk of the sterile manufacturing is personnel, because we cannot manufacture. You may have the best of the best machine, but still you require somebody to go there and switch on. Still you require to go there, somebody, and do some operation. Even we are in the design profession, and we design less number, but there's about 2 or 3 operators are still required. And you know, one operator means what all kind of havoc he creates. Okay. Who is keeping the time? Yeah. Okay, fine. So adequate to clean garment. So we will just see a sort of a very snapshot of regulatory perspective. And that I promise both Manas and Ramdev that I will be speaking about the regulatory. So is clean room and going for the good garments and those things is a fancy or bogey of some companies to survive for the? No, it's not. It is a very hardcore driven regulatory requirement. And let us take a look at the regulations it talks about. It talks about US FDA 21 CFR Part 210. It talks very vehemently about the personnel, what do they engage in the manufacture and the processing, packaging, holding all the products, need to be protecting themselves from the particle. Other things are also mentioned. Is it that only one US FDA? No. So all other, and I had made a list of all the, there could be many, but whatever occurred to my mind, we saw that the US FDA processing guidelines, and you can see very difficult to read, but the slides are very clear. It's a fault of the screen. So we can see that whatever is underlined, it talks, every place it talks about, you should be talking about the control. Regulatory, even you talk about the European guidelines, volume 4, even the EU guidelines, they are nothing different. Maybe some small wording here and there is different. And I can tell you all the delegates who come from, or the, not delegates, I mean the hosts who come from abroad, there is not much of a difference between our regulation and the regulations elsewhere, except for the part of implementation. That's a big issue. But on the piece of paper, they are the same. So let us not get that we have something, the delta is very big. It's not. It's virtually, it's only insignificant difference between the two, except the place where it is word over there. Then the Uralex and the other European 4 guidelines, all other guidelines are made for human veterinary use. Everybody talks about the, this is the regulatory perspective, depending upon the jurisdiction of the aseptic area, and EU guidelines, FDA, Japanese guidelines, everybody mentions about the regulatory perspective. And they say that the guidelines say they sterilize and adequately sterilize. And look at the when the word sterilize means, then the whole lot of things will come. Because then the sterilize means there is no discrimination between the garment sterilization and the product sterilization. They will ask you for the all kinds of same, the validation gamut of it, written procedures and the reusable garments. Regulatory perspectives, okay, we'll just quickly skip there. It's okay, fine. It is again for those who would like to go in for the, they talk about the reusable, each entry and everything, whatever is there, the guidelines are very specific, what it should cover. Now we just see that this is the regulatory perspective, requirement we have seen, history we have seen. What impact it makes? Does it make, and this is something for the industry to, I have picked up some recent 483s. I hope everybody understands the 483 over here. And When it is 483, a pharmacist has to sweat. Okay, so that is nothing. I picked up a couple of 483s, live example, that the regulatory agencies has really issued this 483 and purely on the garments kind of thing. It's nothing to do with product, it's nothing to do with process, degradation product, impurities, nothing. It talks about, look at that, we observe grounding practice in the pharmacies prior to production, name they have given, in entering the sterile with the forehead open. Now, this could be a reason for 483. Look at that, and 483 is a 483 is a 483. There is no classification. Those sitting in this room, they need not be told. US FDA does not categorize the findings like MHRA. That is it. For them, it's observation. And his boss decides whether it is a serious or not serious. And look at that. If this could be, if this could be read the way it is, it could lead to even the WL or even further. There is one more. One more this thing, we had just picked up, those who are interested, they can read these 483s much more in detail. Then look at that. Again, the personnel engaged in the processing of the drug product not appropriately performing the duty, because again, concerning the uniforms and the... so having seen this thing, I'm just putting this regulatory perspective that is written in the law. If not followed, what happens? We have seen the impact of it by the agencies, and then we see that what do we do? Now we say that the risk factor in the clean room glandular. So when we say that they are the one which generate all this thing of the problem, which are all the risk factors which this thing, the grounding procedure, qualification, laundering, packing, cleaning, sterilization, inspection, repairs and storage. Now today what's happening? See, FDA, I mean, I had huge exposure here. Huge exposure, I was not all that bald what you see me now. FDA made me because of the worries, all the kind of things. So every time you do something, they will not ask, they will ask something else. So when we have expertise and put in HPLCs for everything, going for the minutest detail, they changed their thing. And I will not be surprised, tomorrow they will go on this grounding kind of thing and start asking you questions on the validation of the grounding processes and the sterilization of the grounding material and all. Look at that, that's why one of the guidelines which they say that one of the research articles has said, now they want to have the procedure for if the garment is torn, what is your policy to reuse torn garment? What is your policy to repair that garment? What's your policy to reuse the garment? Okay, you're talking about the RFID devices, you're talking about the barcode, etc., etc. Now they are going, when you say you have got everything, they are asking you something. Do you have the policy for that? So that's the reason. The things which I listed over, say, laundering, most companies have best of the laundry. One of my anti-cancer units, we put one of the finest laundry in the world, I would say. One of the biggest anti-cancer facility in India and in the world also. So we put the finest laundry, and I thought, but is anybody sitting over here knows the cost of processing? Because most of us, most of the people, they really don't know the cost associated with that. And we go on spending. I always throw, whenever I'm allowed to talk, I ask a question. Anybody sitting over here can tell me the cost of 1 liter of water for injection in his plant. I will not charge for whatever I normally charge for other dogs. Okay? Nobody knows. And then they say that, okay, we use this kind of, and I say, what cost? My dear friend, why are you entering into something? It is something like buying a full buffalo for 1 liter of milk. So it's something, we really don't know the cost of this thing. So you can get something done and you are doing everything. So similarly, the cost of operating and the processing, because something has to be done in class 100. The class of running that equipment. When you go there, the inspector goes there, he will ask you the validation data of that, again the laminar flow, and all of the things over there. So there is no end to it. So, but these are all the garment risk when we are talking about a garment. We are talking about the performance qualification and the validation of the garment. Look at that, the same applies. Material qualification, performance listing, stability, how long the garment. When you say it's a clean, hold time and other thing, and the usability evaluation. So these are all the things associated with something which we talk about, the garments which we wear in the clean room. Again, we have seen the guidelines for the particulate control. Now we are talking about the guidelines which are there for the garments. Again, we are going to very specific. And look at that. These are all the guidelines which are there to control. There's IS guideline, ISO guideline, and all these things. Sorry. Okay, so these are all the guidelines which are talking about the of the garments when per se when we use, and it talks about design, specification, material, everything concerning the garments, and it talks. So it's becoming very specific. We are seeing particle, we are taking the human, we are talking about the particle control, clean room, now coming to garments. In the garments, again, the validation of the process and all these things. So that is what is the future. So what we talk about, we see the first picture what we saw. Earlier, you have seen the operator here in the conventional garment, the conventional way. Now we talk about the garment. Is it clean? This picture is very clear from the Can somebody see this? Picture is clear? Okay, fine, because it's very difficult on this electronic screen. Now you see that there is a change in the way this person is ground, and the same thing, the eddies are not created, and that's how the airflow is. Similarly, by the product, which was the equipment, by providing the food, and so we are trying to make turbulent airflow, and this. So this is what is the advancement in the future we have been talking about. Now, where is the future? What are the future drivers? Again, the question, same thing, yesterday, today, tomorrow. What was yesterday? Yesterday was, unfortunately, I'm witness to all the three generations. I started my career in 76, 75, so I can very much call it yesterday. And the yesterday was just a sort of a conventional clean room, class A by B and all this thing. And I told you the quality of garments which we are using. After I think around 80s, we started using the polyester and the Decron, all that material. So that I call it yesterday. What's happening today? We are talking about a little bit of a better this thing with the restricted access barrier system. We are talking about the contamination control, operator control, gloves, integrity, and with the isolators. Again, this is today. With the isolator with the gloves, and the contamination risk are reduced to a very large extent. Okay, this is today. And what's tomorrow? Tomorrow is what is written in the last kind of thing. I don't know which color this is over here. This is a brown color. And where we say that the isolator with no gloves and no operator. This is the future. And then we see that the conventional with RABs, isolator, and today we see the robotics. It's a virtually isolator without any people over there. So this is the way we would like to go, because we are trying to meet the guidelines. So when the advancements, what are the advancement and the future drivers? What we see as gone are those days of the mass production, mass volume, mass of this kind. Today we are not talking about it. We are talking about the growth in the personalized medicine.
There is still half an hour.
Huh?
There is still half an hour left.
Left. Okay. Fine. So we see a micro lot size. We talk about, nobody is wanting now to go in for a very large kind of thing. We are going in for the very specialized kind of thing. So drivers are, and I will correlate this thing with what is the subject for today. It's not that any irrelevant things I'm talking about. So we talk about growth in the personalized medicine. Lot size are from very small. Of course, earlier, today, what is there for the anti-cancer drugs, which is very small, it's not. It could be for even, probably today for headache, we have the brufens and we have the paracetamols and all this thing. Probably we'll have specialized brufen and the specialized paracetamol for everybody's different headache. Headache due to seminars, headache due to bosses follow-up, headache due to less performance in sales, headache due to all kinds of different headaches are there. So they all can be headaches due to following HR practices. Okay, come on, let me make her happy also. Okay, so there are different kinds, and no, there is no generalized headache. So we will have to go in for specialized medicine. And these specialized medicines will definitely want you to do something very specialized. Need for the rapid turnout. Nobody is interested in the long lead time. Come on. They want material coming today and getting sold by evening. And of course, preferably the cash coming prior to that. Okay, that's the aim of somebody like Manas sitting over here, because finally he will be asked at the end of the day, what did you achieve? Okay, so and actual filling can go slower, because today we want 5 ml or 50 ml. We want the speed to be the same. We don't want the 5 ml or 0.5 ml, the filling time comparatively for a 50 ml is the same. No, we don't want. The industry expects you to fill 5 ml, 0.5 ml in the same time. 50 ml also into the same time, because we would like to have the exposure as less as possible. Coming to, this is a wonderful slide, and which probably I would want my guests from abroad to really look. This is what we are, India, we are really seriously working on this thing. And this slide, you can take a little more time even after the presentation also. So look at that, it's a fairly busy slide. It talks about what are we aiming at? Gone are those days that we are talking in India, we are anymore doing in the donkey work. Donkey, the animal in India, is taken as a sort of a, what I can say, man with the least IQ. Okay, so that is because these guys work in manufacturing, so that's why. Intelligent guys work in sales. That was told to us. And most intelligent, okay, and most intelligence are in the finance and other areas. Okay, I don't know. These are all the things which were made over there. But we were told that you are donkeys. That's why you have to work in manufacturing. That I realized after working 40 years in manufacturing. Okay, no problem. Better late than never. So what happened? This slide, it comes over there. Look at that. In this picture, we have put the categories like oncology and the immunosuppressives at the last quadrant. And that it says that let us stay on high value, low volume. Because gone are those days that we would like to do some sort of a very huge volume. Very recently, one of the very big multinationals, unfortunately I was also head of that company a couple of days back, they had made a huge facility near Bangalore and spent close to about 150 million US. I just convert today's valuation, maybe $200 million. And just the facility was not even formally inaugurated. It was operational, but not formally inaugurated. 3 years down the line, they are closing the facility. They closed the facility. The reason being uneconomical. Uneconomical because they made the facility for such kind of low value molecules which is not yield. All these price controlled molecule or all these kind of thing which requires a huge turnout with millions and tons. Who believes in these days? People want anything falling into the last quadrant, which is something which is, look at that, this category, oncology and immunosuppressants. I'm just giving the example so that when we talk about the least of the thing, it is something which would talk about making our operation as small as possible, as easy to control as possible, and use as much gadget. And it should be affordable. I told you my ways of doing in Borden, UK, when I ran the operation, I could afford 65 pounds throwing this kind of thing because my one vial was selling for 440 pounds. Okay, so there I could afford it. No, 440 pounds is something, if you take a calculator, it is the result is out of the range of the calculator. But those kind of the products which we are talking about, can I afford it over here? No, the answer is, even if you say no, I will say first no. So that's the reason for me, what is left over there is when we talk about the advancement, the drivers, I just see, I would like to concentrate mostly on this quadrant of my operation. And everybody, for that matter, everybody, even for your organization, you have got to see what best. Unless you are the best, you can't survive. You can fool some people for some time, some people for all time, but not all the people for all the time. Okay? So then you have got to be something which is different, something which we say that. And if you stay ahead of competition, that's a buzzword. I would always want it that way. And believe me, this place where you are sitting right now is a place, it's a happening place. Somebody is already down with coronavirus, so now we are next in number. Not in virus for this thing, but for business point of view. This is the place. This is the business. And this is definitely coming from here only, because that's the way now we have understood. And we have understood very much for when I started my career and in the anti-cancer, my share in the market was close to about 8 to 9% of the market share, which in spite of the sales going 3 times, the market share of the company has dropped to only 2%. Just imagine. The percentage has dropped, share has gone up. So many new players have come. Markets are getting evaluated and markets are getting newer and newer markets are opening over there. So they were all untapped. And that's the reason I keep telling you, all the sales guys, you have to really go into the untapped market. Throw that hat of a expensive thing cannot be sold. It's the same place where a vaccine which was costing 1 dose 10 times the dose, the thing people care for something. How the vaccine is stored, what way this, because the result will be known only after 10 years. If you take a polio vaccine or something and you could just come to know it was inactive, you will come to know only after 10 years. So people would stay even the higher cost. We are seeing that even the most expensive molecules in India, they have been very successful. So cost is no, as long as you can convince, as long as you have a product which can go to the people, The business is yours, okay? And this is not I say. This is already there. This is already a material which say over there. So then the business drivers future, we would like to de-risk the supply chain. We would not like to get caught by any other small little thing. Low volume, high value, I already spoke about. The flexible and agile. People talk about agile processes. No more we would like to go in for the starting it from the basic raw material, and the best way to start this thing is, okay, somebody will say then the API, we talk about why would not to do from taking from a benzene and going for toluene and then going for the Friedel-Crafts reactions and again taking the whole lot of it. I'm not interested in that. Probably I would like to go something like a penultimate step and put all my eggs in improving that and getting the strong ways. Okay, that's the way I would like to go. So that's why most of the processes where I have access now to buy things. Should I make vials in my own factory just because I would like to go in for that backward integration? No. Why Europe is now wanting to go for the, say here in India, I give one excellent example for your consumption. A couple of days back, we could never think of pre-wash plugs. Plugs were, so that's the device which is there for the injectable. Then West came here and then they started selling pre-wash plug. Now then they said that why are you water washing what you are doing, you are sterilizing. So why are you sterilizing? We will give you sterilized plug. The cost was very high. The Indian plug versus was about 20 times more. But then industry found that it's very easy, especially for the advanced market. They found that the pre-sterilized, ready-to-use plugs are much better because somebody else is taking the responsibility of showing the FDA or the regulatory agencies the whole gamut of validation work. And why should I do all that non-value added work over here? Somebody is there with more proficient people and more qualified people to do all that work. So that I'm outsourcing. The reason of this talk here today is that I'm wanting to advise my colleagues sitting over there who are in the practicing. Let us not try to do so many things. You do whatever you do, that is the best. But not try to do whatever best you would like to do on 100 things at one place. You'll not be able to convert. Where you will go? Which all the places you talk about? So advancement future, the conservatism, that is the worst. This is the facility the industry here had, that conservative. We always felt that industry is like this thing. We never wanted to change. The building was made by my father. Okay, this was the first thing when my first son was born. This was something which, these are all the reasons you hear people. Why are you using this machine? No, this was bought by my, something like that. My mother, when she was alive, she had this bought. We wouldn't want to change. It's the reason to use anything, but that's the conservatism. We would not like to change. That's another good reason people, why? Reason is, no, I just don't want to change. Because change is not something accepted in my family. What nonsense. There's nothing like that. But that is still pursued. Because most of the family-run organizations, they still follow this conservative approach. That would be one of my jobs which I heard. We made a beautiful office in the Bandra Kurla complex. But the chairman refused to go there. He was still using his old place, very old, and his office was 1/10 the size of my office, where he had 50 people like me working for him. And he has almost he said, no, this is the place I started. And all my fortune started from this very table and all. I said, what nonsense, how do I bring all the people in this? There are more than 2 people can sit. He said, no, if there are 10, they can come in a lot of 2 each. But I will not change. No, this is the conservatism. We are absolutely mediocrity. I don't know how to explain in this room. But another thing, because couple of years back when the industry started, it started with available people. And that's what I always tell people now. There are people, qualified people available in this industry. We still go for, and the reason Ramdev just now spoke to me, he said that you can slightly touch upon the cost of non-compliance. And reason for cost of non-compliance are, I did not know about, you are going to request me that, but sometimes I need to be in a profession of fortune telling. Okay, so this was made a couple of days back, and there, look at that, all the reasons are already mentioned over here. That the reason is mediocrity and the lack of industry, as well as, unfortunately, please pardon my word saying, including the regulators. Because a couple of days back, even now also, see the regulation, the regulatory agencies, they know anything about the industry. Most of the guys are just fresh from the college, they join the regulation, and they have no clue of any industry. And what kind of thing? Just attending some seminar 2 days here and there, that cannot be thing. Most of my MHRA guys, whom I had known very well, even the MHRA chief was my colleague in Burroughs Wellcome. Look at that. The guy worked 25 years in industry, and then he has gone as a head of MHRA. Now, his attitude towards the entire thing is going to be much different than the guy who grew in this kind of thing. There are about 28 only MHRA inspectors, and this guy, Gerard Heddle is his name, he was my colleague in Burroughs Wellcome. So I asked a very good equation with him. So I said, look, he said, at 25, 30 years, we were all colleagues together in GSK and Burroughs Wellcome, and then he has gone. Do you expect that his attitude is going to be definitely backed by the industry? So that's why I say that mediocrity. Another unfortunate thing is that wrong benchmarking. Look at that. We always try to benchmark. Everywhere that kind of thing is there. In when I was in active manufacturing life, I was also, my people will say, why you want this thing? He said, no, sir, Ranbaxy has done like this thing. Why Ranbaxy? Then that I don't know, but Ranbaxy has done it. Somebody will say, why you have done this? Anyway, Reddy's has done that. And what was happening? It was nothing but one-upmanship. There's no reason. Nobody is going to tell it. Has anybody referred to ISP guidelines? I really don't know. Why you don't know? When so many people told that we use all the seamless pipe from Sweden, okay, for WFI. The guidelines talk for the non-critical area, you can go from the bead removed pipe, which is written. Guideline is not written by my uncle. It is written by all the experts, okay, which is ISP. Now, we don't want to see that. No, because XYZ company has done, then I'm not looking into that kind of thing. Wrong benchmarking. Because that's another, and that is related to mediocrity. Wrong perception. We always feel regulatory hurdle is something stumbling block. It's not. Regulatory hurdle regulatory requirements are opportunities for us to learn. We would have never been so intelligent today what we are, I can tell you very frankly, but for the regulatory, and especially I am thankful to FDA and MHRA. Not that I have no respect for the Indian regulators, but believe me, I sincerely feel. Let me tell you, all this anybody from industry, when you just hear that regulatory is coming for inspection, what we all discuss, oh my God, what he is going to ask, what was his previous finding, where did he go last, what is his attitude. Then we always feel that if the regulator is having because FDA inspectors, they come from very, very background. They could be chemical engineer to microbiologist to HPLC technician to any person. So a guy who is coming from chemical engineering background, he is mainly interested in heat, enthalpy, all these kind of things, heat balance, mass balance. He will ask questions on that. If he is coming from the microbiology background, thank God you should not. But if you get, then probably you go to Hardwar for a holy dip. Okay. If you get a person from the chemistry background, he will talk on HPLC, HPTLC. So where do we go? Where do we go from here? It's something which is a whims and fancy because guidelines are so vast, the regulators are so vast. So where do we go? But this is what, again, we try to make our preparation as competent as possible. And that's the reason we say that the regulatory is not a hurdle. Reliability. We are talking about, we still have inhibition. Robo, will they work? How do they work? What will happen? So we are very averse to going for automation because today, of course, India being a leader in the electronic industry and the software and all these things. We are not much worried about this thing, but still there was in some God-forsaken places, we still talk about the reliability. High cost, technology, prohibitively expensive. Sometimes initially to start with, technology is expensive. And components, if you go for a more specialized thing, they are not standardized component. Flexibility, different components, and environmental monitoring, particularly the microbiology, which has become very, very, very tough as we go in for. And we have seen that we like to go in for the specialized drug, we like to go in for the smaller value, this thing with the high value. It is going to be your particulate, it's going to be your particle, it's going to be your microbiology, and that's going to be the toughest. And that's the reason it's at the bottom of the table. Again, containing the summary and the conclusion. So contamination control technology, clean room, design, construction, and the management is getting now matured. We are going into that. Probably some of the places, I hope you have seen some of the places in India. They are as good or even better than what you see in Europe and US. When I was fortunate to have worked in UK for 5 years, and I had seen that Some of the manufacturing sites in India are even better or even superior to even what they are in US and this thing. Believe me, I mean, you'll have to believe me unless you see some of them. Very good. So getting measure. And sterile manufacturing industry evolving slowly and now deliberately, transforming phase, in entering an era where the state of the legacy facility will be forced to modernize. So we would like to definitely go in for the modernize this thing. High regulatory expectation, and that's the one thing which probably the regulatory guidelines are, whatever it may be. Regulatory guidelines are, every day you find something new coming. And I can tell you something within this room. I had an FDA inspection of my anti-cancer facility. I will not name the regulator and the thing. And the FDA inspector, US FDA inspector asked, do you do media fills in tablet? So I got a shock of my life. So I said that maybe US FDA inspector speaking, he is God, he cannot be wrong, he cannot speak lies, he can never speak lie, or he cannot be wrong. So I have fired my QA guy. I said, bloody well, there were new guidelines on the media fills in the tablet area, and you never kept me informed, because being ahead, it was the responsibility of these guys to update me. He said, so there are no guidelines. Only the lady uncle has written something yesterday. Then I said, then I checked up with our principals in US. He said, are there any new guidelines for the tablet area media? He said, the fellow must be drunk. And believe me, this is what first fear you will get. Instead of asking him, holding him by neck, bloody well show me where it is said. They just talk something like that, and that, because we always feel that the regulators are always correct. It's not. It's our problem. But again, the way we have been taught, way we have been growing over here, we always feel that regulators are God, they can never be wrong. And we always feel there is new guidelines. The fear being, the guidelines are ever increasing and high regulatory expectation. Because I told you now, slowly the thing will come to your business, where people will start asking you more and more questions that, okay, show us about how we maintain the particulate matter coming out of the material which the people use, and what way you are going to do it here. And the innovative technology, high-end technology to remove human from aseptic processing, which is now available. Okay, now, where are we? We are almost there. Okay, and I think I am also almost there for the close of my presentation. Thank you very much. Okay. That's exactly 1 hour, including the time off, which in case I would request you not to, but if you have got questions, please. I will be able to. If there are simple one, I will answer. If the difficult one, the people in the afternoon can.
So for this 15 minutes, if you have any questions, you may please ask Mr. Shyam Kante. If you have any questions.
Okay, basically, you spoke of contamination control technology being better in India. As per your experience from what you have seen abroad, can you pinpoint some points which is better in India?
These should be working at least. There we go. Sorry.
You spoke about the contamination technology, clean room contamination technology being better in India, as per your experience which you have in Europe and other countries. Would you like to pinpoint what is better in India here? What is the better technology that you have found in India?
Okay, I mean, your question is good. No, I don't know whether the answer will be the same, good or bad. She's asking whether the technology in the US in the contamination control, is it, what way it is inferior or super? We are practicing better, and when I say we are doing it better, correct? That's what we are asking. And what way it is better? Number one, what we have seen, and somebody in the afternoon is going to talk about the material of construction of the clean room. The components of the clean room, etc., are almost the same, or even sometimes better than what is in practice elsewhere. Number one, we have gone to the extent of, I can give a small example, because I live by example, that when we are now selecting the coating of the panels, we also like to give the supplier whether it will stand our method of sterilization of HP, vaporized H2O2 and all these things. So sometimes this was not being even thought of it, but we talk and then they change the component of their coating material to suit the hydrogen peroxide testing. So that extent we have gone in, number one. Number two, the hardware part of it, the entire air conditioning, all this thing, is most places we use the air handling system as efficient as UK. We use the component of the air handling system, like the compressor and all the train and other area. Most of them, they come from US. So I don't think there is anything we are using the infrastructure, inferior material. The hard software part of it, again, the BMS part of it, the building management system, again, we are, India is again the leader over there, and we are using that kind of thing. So technology-wise, the way we are using from the now, we are HEPA filter, ALPA filter, and the best quality of filters are now being practiced over there. We're trying to wipe 0.22, even going lesser than that, and 99.997, even better performance on that. So we are using hardware part of it. Hardware is the structure part of it is better than whatever is practiced over there. Equipment, most Indian plants are using Groninger or they are using Bosch. Now you tell me, Bosch in India, the machine comes from Germany. So Bosch in German company using Bosch and in India, or Groninger or Macofor, or all these big makes are there, even for that matter, WH. Everything, all equipment which are being used over there. So that we are no way inferior as compared to what is there here. Now, yes, the reason is, what way we are inferior is only somewhere, some portion of the presentation, where is the implementation part of it, and the practices, and there where probably somebody sitting here, she has a better role, HR has a better role of training people, motivating people, training people. Finally, it's people. As of now, maybe robot will come another 10 years, 15 years, I really don't know. But as long as the job is done by human, you have got to train them. And finally, training. It's a very tiring process. We have lost the faith in training. We feel that training does nothing, but I feel training does everything. It's a training which can do, and if it is taught, and then probably really qualified people, better people, if you take inside, will not be doing anything less than that. I am still finding glass pieces coming from the vaccine product coming out of Belgium plant, which is supposed to be the world's best vaccine site facility. We still had. So do you mean to say that they put glass over there? This means something somewhere has gone wrong there also. So if same thing would have happened in India, people would say that we don't have control. It's not. Lack of control is failure, some sort of mess. It keeps on happening. But yes, if this we take care, we will no way, we will be anyway inferior to the technology used, the environment used, and the product. Hope it answers your question.
So maybe again from HR field, I would like to ask you a very general question, like in your 40 years of experience, which has been the most significant in your career so far, where you thought that, yeah, this is the company where I like the most the practices, training, culture, or whatever. So we would definitely like to hear about your experience being in the industry from 40 years.
Well, again, touching your point of this thing, a couple of years back, I moved myself from a company which was very well finance driven. Okay, there is another multinational, American multinational company. There, even if you want to buy a broom, they would do IRR payback, and then it will be allowed over there, even a small little thing. So nothing used to move. Everything was financial driven. Absolutely. Even if two people go for a business and there are 3 cups of tea, the questions will be asked, why 3 cups of tea? That's kind of finance driven. So from that background, I went to a company which was slightly lax on the finance part of it, but they were very lax and very much into the change into the operators. It was on the southern part of India and very difficult, very conservative. The first thing is that if you want to change somebody to change your clothes, we told the girls to remove ear hanging, loose ear hanging, to remove bindi, and that was a big revolt. I was on the verge of losing my job. He said, no, we remove our bindi only when our husband dies. So I said, let your husband die every day, because if you have to remove the bindi, because they won't say, look at that, these are all the things. Now you tell me, as a lady, how can you go and convince that lady to remove? Because in India, it is said, now this is something, has it something to do with your regulatory? And then you say, look, this bindi will fall into the product, it will contaminate the product, we will have the issue. How do you explain this kind of thing? He said, no, we will not remove the bangles. Bangles are again in the Indian parlance. You break your bangles or the lady removes only when the husband dies. Okay. So they said that you are asking us to remove bangles. So I said, look, fine, we can find a wire media instead of a glass bangle. Why don't you use a metal bangle? Okay, so metal bangles will shed less particle. Then the regulator said, no, even the metal also sheds particle. Wow. So I said, no, what do we do? How can we do? But then slowly we convinced them. We really took help of HR. We really deployed people. Sorry. Okay, so that's where the role of HR came. We really went to the basics of it, explaining them. It took us long. I can tell you it was not all that easy, but really virtual. And then came the things that we could comply. One of my regulators, when they first came, that she said, I will not eat any tablet manufactured in your plant, seeing the condition. 2 years down the line, she comes. He said, I will put my hand anywhere, you said, and whichever product you want me to eat, I will eat. So this is the transformation. I'm giving the live example with practical kind of thing. So this is the transformation we brought in. That kind of confidence, and the same regulator came. He said, now I can eat whichever drum you want me to put a hand, and I will take the tablet and eat. That kind of confidence I got. Now I feel that you have reached that level. So it's possible. It's consistently, if we can train kind of thing. Only thing is that here in training, we lose patience. We have no patience. We always feel training is a complimentary extra. Because normally, when we started our career, our production guy used to ring up HR guy. Today we have a breakdown. Can you organize some training? So that when we want to kill time, we were organizing training. Okay, so that was the situation. Then he said that we have some spare time. Can you organize training? So that was it. But today we have got to stop manufacturing and send people for training. We have now the key performance indicator. That is the mandate spent on training. Earlier it was 1 hour per month. Then it was 1 hour something. Today we are talking about weeks not per annum, but we are talking weeks per month. And again, if somebody were to tell me honestly, if he follows the guidelines and all these things, 30% of the capacity of a plant is for a regulated market goes into validation. And 30 or 35% of the time goes for the training. And if it is not done, either the guy is not trained or then you are in for some difficult kind of thing. But that's the way it happens. In my morning walk, I got a couple of my colleagues who are pilots. So I always say, you have not seen. He said, I have gone for training. I said, how long you go for training? He said, no, once I go on a leave for 21 days, and even I am again back to cockpit, I have to undergo training. Wow. So the guy, he's running the same 320. There is no change in the aircraft, but the very fact that there is change in his lifestyle for 21 days, he has to undergo training and again sit on that machine. Because life of 300 people is at stakes with small little thing which is happening over there. So look at that, that's the importance of training. And all these things, we can train from anywhere to anywhere. Yeah.
My name is Venkat. I am working for Cleanroom, and I have a question to you. We are a workwear rental company, and we are servicing for pharma too. And pharma has a strict and high level of working methods and.
It's a lot of echo. Anyway, you speak, somebody can transfer it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of echo.
Yeah. Just I'm asking that pharma has a very high level of standards and working methods, and they strictly monitor everything. But we are the ancillary service for pharma, and how do you see that? What kind of practices we also need to do, and is this we also should comply that exactly like what pharma does, or do we have separate guidelines that we can follow?
Yeah, can somebody, because of the echo I could, that's not the problem. Yeah.
When we are talking of a clean room laundry.
Clean room?
Laundry.
Okay.
Okay, so what are the guidelines that they need to meet? Is there guidelines, or would you like to suggest certain parameters that will match the requirement of the pharma industry?
Guidelines are there. You see the presentation which I told about. There are guidelines already. All the regulatory agencies have guidelines. So there is nothing that you have dearth of guidelines. Guidelines are there. Okay. Number one. as long as your containment, your controls, your particulate matter, if your plate counts or your the viable, non-viable particulate matter, and your BMS is showing that the area is complying, that is only proof of the pudding. You cannot say, I am washing my clothes 10 times, I am sterilizing 20 times, I am using a Fedegare autoclave. Nonsense. Nothing else will help you. What will help you? Only the result. They will say, show us the result, that your operations are taking place and the BMS reveal that your machine never stops. Which is very difficult, but still we say that our machine never stops, okay? So then that's a place we say that our controls are better. Then we say that the garment which you have selected, these are all the criteria based on what we have selected, based on the fabric, based on the kind of thing, whatever we have selected, you have got reasons and data to prove that it is not generating and it is meeting. So meeting the requirement is the only proof. Other than all the stories what you make, that will not be accepted by the regulatory authorities. Because I told you, there is a research paper which talks about if there is a hole in the dress, how big, okay? Then how that you will do it? How will you mend the thing? What is your change policy? What is the policy of using a tone? There is no end to it. So it's better than you take a call. So for that, my answer would be that if you can prove that thing, that look, suppose something like my aseptic processes, and I always give an example. I have my media field which talks about it. Media field is a very sensitive tool. If my media field reveals that my things are okay, then probably I can say that I can use even a non-sterile garment. Not possible, but still I can say, as long as I can prove that. So all the dead end or the bottom line of this thing is nothing but the very strict compliance thing. And if the results tally, you are there, not otherwise. Because you are reasoning best of the laundry, I have got best of the things, I have got best of things, the best will not work. It shows the result. So you cannot just say, how do I upgrade my laundry? You can keep on upgrading as long as you keep getting the results. They don't talk about the means, they talk about the result. Look at that. No guidelines will ever speak about the means. You write the SOP by hand or you generate it on a computer. As long as you follow, how you write is a material. As long as it is legible, it is practiced, it is done, that's the way. People, most probably in most of this part of the country, we always feel that tools are more important. Tools are not. How you do it's not a problem. I can fly from here to there. If I can afford an air ticket, I can afford an aircraft, I can afford a charter. How do I go from it? So what's my objective? What's the time I have got? What's the cost I got? What is my urgency to go there? That all drives all the success. But my sincere request to industry will be, let us not spend our bandwidth on some of the work which could be outsourced. A simple request. Believe me, I was the first one who vehemently opposed using a pre-sterilized plugs. But then when I realized it, what is the outcome of this kind of thing? Then I found that the using pre-sterilized plug is cheaper than that. Because again, I'm giving the same question. We don't know the cost of water, WFI. You tell me if you know in your company. If anybody knows, you tell me whatever. Nobody knows. Because nobody knows that there is any cost to water. Okay. And that's the way. And then we use liters of WFI and then we don't know that's required. Electricity costs, operational costs, training costs, validation costs, obsolescence costs. Where does it go? It sits on your balance sheet. And finally, it is at the end of the day you have to answer. And maybe initially it may appear to be a little bit more expensive. But finally, at the end of the day, if you get something which is meeting the requirement, job is done. Yeah.
Sir, you mentioned one of the risk factors for clean room garments was even packing and sterilization. So I wanted to just know from you, from your past experiences, if you faced any challenges or any concerns in this area. Challenges that you might have faced. As you mentioned, for clean room garments, one of the risk factors is also packaging and sterilization.
I tell you, if I heard you correctly, in most places in the garment, it is the practices which is most important. You may have, see for example, most people have LF in front of the washing. Most people have a clean room. Most people have an entry procedure. One of my plants, we have put entry procedure. Class 100 for laundry packing of this thing. Believe me. I know you will not believe, but it's a fact. I'm ready to lose anything. You can go and see over there. Class 100 for packing of the garments in a Okay, this packed garment which are class in class 100, then they were going in a sealed container. And this, they were going into a area after proper autoclaving, again that bovine taste, all kinds of whole kind of. In spite of that, there was an issue. Now you tell me, whom you blame here? The equipment, system, or this? It was nothing but our practices. How we do it. And that's why let us not keep that a reason for existence. Most thing is that we should not give the on a platter to the regulatory agencies that, okay, give so much area open, and then you say, come on, ask us questions over there. That's the way. That's how I would like to keep the regulatory agencies. My request to all the people in the manufacturer would be, concentrate as much on the key operations, your formulation, your product speed, your product contamination, your product content, your adherence to the quality of it, than to these kind of things which can be done by somebody else. Let them go to Bosch, Singapore, and check their facility for compliance of this kind of. Why should I break my head over there? Let somebody who is supplying me the processed garments and all, let them break the head. They will show all the data to FDA. They have got qualified people. They can show lots of plethora of information. So that is coming to you free. You pay for only that one particular product. No, you don't pay for that. You pay even for that kind of thing with the research data which they have got, and that costs. Somebody has put money for that. The first thing, first thing which I said, that kind of thing, that we have very conservative kind of thing. I would like to do it. Why should I? In my personal habit, I'm very fond of ironing. So I'd put a most modern ironing machine in one of my plant. So that was my kind of thing, which I always felt like that. Then I realized that this was creating more problem than it is serving the job. So please, keep off this kind of thing. What I like, what do I like, what is my personal, this kind of thing. First thing, what is the regulators will see? Because finally, your exam is conducted by not your employer. It is conducted by the regulator. And you get your salary only when the stuff is sold, not when it is produced.
Thank you, Mr. Schauman. If you could stay for a little bit. I think you all agree when I say that this presentation was